You're floating away from your body and seeing at your own face in a dream where you have a strong sensation of presence, the most genuine experience of your life. After passing through the threshold of enlightenment, you are filled with blissful sense. These positive aspects of near death experiences have been described by people who were on the verge of death and survived. Hi, I hope you're having a great day. Today, we would like to talk about psychedelics and near death experiences. What are near death experiences? Near death experiences are deep states of consciousness experienced by those who have survived in a close call with death. They include intensely vivid memories involving bodily sensation that give a strong impression of being real, more real than memories of true events. The content of those experiences famously includes memories of one's life flashing before the eyes, and also the sensation of leaving the body, often seeing one's own face and body, blissfully traveling through a tunnel toward light, and feeling at one with something universal. The near death experience is a phenomenon of considerable importance to medicine, neuroscience, neurology, psychiatry, philosophy, and religion. NDEs have been seized upon by many as proof of life after death, heaven, and the existence of God. The depictions of leaving the body and achieving joyful union with the universe seem almost scripted from religious beliefs about souls departing the body at death and rising to heavenly bliss. But these experiences are common in the form and content to a wide spectrum of cultures and religions, so it's unlikely that they are all the result of religious expectations. Neuroscientists have argued that this similarity implies that NDEs may be a result of something more fundamental than religious or cultural expectations. They think that there might be a more terrestrial neurochemical explanation that the profound and magical near death experience is caused by the natural release of brain chemicals at or near the end of the life. Supporting this, observers have noted the striking similarities between first-hand accounts of NDEs and the psychedelic experiences described by people who have taken mind-altering drugs. Well, it might be interesting to know that when Raymond Moody invented the term near-death experience in 1975, he actually noted the similarities between NDEs and DMT trips. As you probably know by now, DMT is a hallucinogen found in a variety of plants and animals. It's also known as the spirit molecule because of the powerful psychedelic experience it provides. Also, DMT is the active ingredient of ayahuasca, a South American herbal remedy. The ayahuasca experience is filled with death and rebirth themes. The names of the plants used to make the ayahuasca drink contain connotations to death, while the phrase ayahuasca translates to vine of the dead or vine of the soul. It seems that drinkers of ayahuasca undergo altered states of consciousness, comparable to those associated with near death experiences. But why are NDEs and psychedelic experiences this similar? Well, this question is very tricky to answer because studying NDEs has significant technical hurdles. Animals cannot be tested for NDEs, and saving a dying patient is far more essential than asking them about their NDE. In addition, many of the drugs used to create mystical experiences are illegal, which complicates any efforts to investigate these effects and similarities with near-death experiences. Having said that, let's have a closer look at some research that has been done in this field and the main theories that have tried to solve this puzzle. The first theory is posited by Rick Strassman, a neuroscientist and a famous psychedelic researcher. Unlike most people that believe near-death experiences are glimpses into the hereafter, Dr. Strassman, who led the first clinical trial in the United States to administer DMT, argues that near-death experiences are a result of the brain's production of DMT. In the late 1990s, he began delivering DMT to individuals in his laboratory as part of his research. A revolutionary transformation was witnessed by every one of his participants. According to Strassman, participants also traveled into other planets, encountered indescribable things, and experienced visions. Strassman showed that the DMT molecule decreased neuronal damage from hypoxia, or a shortage of oxygen in the brain. Due to his research on DMT and the psychedelic NDE, Strassman began to speculate that the body may release DMT in emergency conditions when the brain's oxygen supply is diminishing. According to the second theory, similar states of consciousness can be reached through different mechanisms. Both DMT and NDEs could induce similarly dramatic effects in the brain, but through differing starting points. This theory was addressed by Dr. Timmerman and his colleagues, who recreated a near-death experience to find out what it feels like. The researchers discovered significant overlap in nearly all the NDE phenomenological features when comparing DMT-induced NDEs with a matched group of actual NDE experiencers. In their study, the researchers delivered 13 healthy subjects, a placebo in one session and DMT in another. These people were then asked to rate their trip using a questionnaire initially designed to measure near-death experiences. The scale asked questions such as, did you feel separated from your physical body? And did you seem to encounter a mystical being or presence? A score of 7 is considered a threshold for what characterizes as NDE. This threshold was crossed by all participants after consuming a strong dose of DMT. These experiences were strikingly comparable to those reported after having a near-death experience. So the researchers suggested that a NDE and the DMT state perhaps share a comparable neurochemical activity. Findings may mean that the near-death experience may reflect changes in the same chemical system in the brain that is targeted by psychedelic drugs like DMT. Based on the third theory, endorphins released during a stressful event may produce something like a near-death experience, particularly by reducing pain and increasing pleasant sensation. Similarly, anesthetics, such as ketamine, can simulate near-death experience characteristics such as out-of-body experiences. Although it's impossible to directly examine what happens in the body during NDEs, the stories collected from people who have experienced them provide a rich resource for linguistic analysis. In a 2019 study, researchers used deep lexical analysis, comparing the stories of 625 individuals who reported NDEs with the stories of more than 15,000 individuals who had taken one of the 165 different psychoactive drugs. The five most common category terms in the narrative accounts of people who had taken ketamine were the same as the five most common in the accounts of NDEs, suggesting a striking similarity between drug experiences and NDEs in this investigation. One drug in particular, ketamine, led to experiences very similar to NDE. Ketamine, an NMDA receptor antagonist, is a dissociative anesthetic often used in the emergency room. In the brain, it can create sensations that are comparable to NDEs, such as out-of-body experiences and a sense of being connected to the universe, God, or Source. Timmerman and colleagues suggested that ketamine may be used as a safe and reversible experimental model for NDE phenomenology. Before jumping to the conclusion, there is one last study that you need to know about. This study is focused on K-hole, an interesting phenomenon related to ketamine. A K-hole is a dissociative state that happens when you take so much ketamine that your awareness of the world around you and your control over your own body are so severely impaired that you're temporarily unable to interact with others or the world around you. Many have described this experience as feeling a separation of body and mind. But what does actually happen in the brain when someone experiences the K-hole? In a recent study, over the course of several months, researchers gave 12 sheep escalating doses of ketamine from 0.5 milligrams per kilogram to 24 milligrams per kilogram and used an EEG cap to capture their brain activity while on the drug. When making their observations, researchers noticed a striking pattern of brain activity in sheep taking the highest doses. It seemed that high doses of ketamine can temporarily switch off the brain. Professor Jenny Morton, the lead study author and a professor of neurobiology at the University of Cambridge, said this wasn't just reduced brain activity. After the high dose of ketamine, the brains of these sheep completely stopped. We have never seen that before. The researchers suggested that this unexpected blip in the sheep's brain activity may be neurological evidence of a K-hole. To conclude, I should say that here we focused on some theories aimed to explain NDEs. First, because we were able to synthesize DMT naturally in our bodies in extreme situations, like in near-death experiences, there will be a massive release of DMT in the brain that may cause NDE. Second, the states of consciousness can be reached through different mechanisms. Both DMT and NDEs could induce similarly dramatic effects in the brain, but through different starting points. Third, endorphins released during stressful events may produce something like near-death experience. And fourth, maybe there's not simply just one answer. It could be several different factors that cause NDEs. One important limitation to these chemical-based theories is a lack of precision and the fact that they cannot explain the full range of near-death experience features people experience. Some questions also remained unanswered. For example, why does this substance lead to this strange state of consciousness? Or whatever the function of this molecule, why can't just shut off your consciousness instead of giving rise to NDEs? Nevertheless, the researchers have proposed a practical application of this relation. Researchers have found that near-death experiences like psychedelics can raise a person's enjoyment of nature, reduce death anxiety, and improve their psychological well-being over time. So, because of the transformational, profound, and lasting effects of near-death experiences on those who experience them, ketamine could be used therapeutically to induce an near-death experience like a state in terminally ill patients as a preview of what they might experience so as to relieve their anxieties about death.